Welcome to part two of Empowering Women to Stand. This is our soft relaunch special series on domestic violence with special guest Margie McLean of the Margie McLean Foundation. I am Pat Middleton, and we're ready to jump right in. Just want to let you know that every Wednesday night in October at 8 p.m., we will be airing a special series on domestic violence. This can be seen on our Facebook pages, our YouTube channels, as well as heard on WTMR 800 AM, live streaming at WTMRradio.com. WTMR 800 AM is also available in the Google Play Store. You can download our mobile app as well as listen via TuneIn Radio, iHeart Radio, and the Odyssey mobile apps. But before we get started with part two of our interview with Margie, I just want to go over a brief history of Empowering Women to Stand. In October of 2006, my dear mother, Phyllis Nicholson Middleton, founded Empowering Women to Stand. Her mission was to empower, encourage, and enrich the lives of women who have gone through hardship and heartache to believe in themselves and to forge through their difficulties. And she did this in a number of ways. She held back to school drives, Thanksgiving turkey giveaways, drop-offs at homeless shelters. Number one, the shelter that she worked at, which was a domestic violence shelter. These are some of the pictures of some of our events. We had a domestic violence open mic. We had an annual, starting in 2010, we had an annual women's conference every March in honor of Women's History Month. And this is my mother speaking to the women there. Here's another picture of another conference that we had with my mother, myself, my niece, a guest speaker who came from Connecticut, Mimi, and then my daughter and my dear sister. And lastly, this is a picture of one of the turkey giveaways at a church in Camden, New Jersey. And so, Empowering Women to Stand, we went through a grief hiatus when my mother was called home to be with the Lord in January of 2022. But God laid it on my heart to relaunch her ministry. And so this month, we're doing just that. And I'm so honored to have Margie here with me. Margie's ministry, Margie's community involvement, her different efforts with women and youth is so inspiring. And one of the last ministries that my mother supported, I remember her popping in on Margie's panel, When Love Hits Home, which was a domestic violence or is a domestic violence panel initiative that Margie has. And that was October of 2021. And then at the same time, my mother was conducting and leading the book club at her church. And so I just thought it was so fitting to have Margie join me for these first two segments of our relaunch to kind of merge the past to the present and then help give me the push to continue on. Baby steps, baby steps. I could never fill her shoes, but I have the Lord and I have women like Margie helping me, praying for me, encouraging me. And so I'm grateful for that. So, Margie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. And yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I want to thank you once again for being with us. Margie hails from North Carolina, but she's here with us on tonight. And I want to jump right into part two, reminding you that you can listen to part one on our Facebook pages as well as my YouTube channel, which is WPAT Live, Live. And Margie, what is yours?
You can watch me and listen on Margie McLean Foundation or Chemistry Growth Mindset.
Okay, and that chemistry is KEM mystery uh, and mindset. So I want to start with asking you to share what personal experiences from your own life do you draw from in order to do so much in the community to build the esteem of today's youth?
So when I think back, when I was a kid myself, I was involved in a lot of organizations, especially high school, but even going further back, growing up in a household we didn't have as much. And so we had the church, of course, and they would come and they would give. That's when the church was really, really helping their members. So I remember us not having food in the house, and my pastor just came in with grocery bags of things, of food. Later on, being involved in an organization called Ladies Equality, which we started at my high school in '92, and there we were doing a lot of community service with that. So it was pretty much teaching us how to do community service and be leaders in the community. Of course, having that village in the community like we used to. You had your grandma of the community, you had your dad of the community, your uncle of the community, and so that made a lot of sense. But I would say one of the biggest inspirations probably was my grandmother, Margie S. McLean, who I am named after, and who my organization actually is named after, and my
Oh.
great grandmother as well. Both of them were women who was like the big mamas of the community. Everyone would go, and wherever they see the need, they would help. So I guess it's in my blood, to be able to do that in the community.
So you're carrying the torch as well. See,
Carrying the torch.
I knew you would have won. And you just, isn't it an honor to know the legacy, that you come from and that, you're fulfilling, you're continuing. That's powerful. I didn't know that you were named after your grandmother. You may have told me in years past and I forgot, but that is powerful.
Yes, yes, she was a
Wow.
good woman. Yes, so her name is she's
Yes.
Margie S. McLean. I'm Margie Y. McLean. My middle name is from my paternal grandmother. Her name is Yvonne. I say
Okay.
Yvonne, but yes, so yeah.
Okay, okay. So you've got legacy on both your first and middle
Yes,
name, carrying
yes,
the torch. Wow,
yes.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Tell me, you're doing so much to empower women to stand, as we talked about a little bit last week of some of your different initiatives. Who are some of the women? Now, I want you to go into a little more detail. You did say your grandmother and your great grandmother, but who are some of the other women who have empowered you, and in what ways have they empowered you to stand?
So with my mother, she had me at a young age. However, I've seen where she have pushed through. She wanted to be a nurse, and she waited until I finished school, and then I watched her get her
Oh,
degree. Matter of fact, we was in classes together when I went back to try to get a second degree.
well,
And I've watched her push through um, working and finishing at a plant, and then she became a nurse, and that's what she's doing now. So that's definitely one of the ones that inspired me, just watching my mother, from a teenage mom to now what she's doing now. Um, Also, I would say Dorothy Heights was definitely one of the ones that inspired me as well. Watching her be a leader in the community, seeing there's a need, and she created initiatives to
mhm.
push for our organization. One of the ones that, which is what I use for my community baby shower, is pushing the fact that we have fathers in the home. At that time, we know how the look of the black family was, and she wanted to make sure that we had that image on TV with Good Times. Good Times being one of the ones that was one of the first um, shows that showed a father in the home. And another young one, lady is Mary McLeod Bethune. She
Oh,
started
yes,
from just the
yes.
beginning, being the founder of one of my organizations, National Council of Negro Women, and she started from nothing, and to now, we have this large organization, just even a school named after her. She started a school in Florida, and she started that using sweet potatoes,
Mm-hmm,
making
mm-hmm.
sweet potato pies. So just listening to some of those uh, uh I would say she roles for me have
Yes.
me to push further. If they could do it, I know I can do it, because I have so much more now, so it's no excuse to why I can't. So yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, you make me smile and think, of the women, who I've mentioned my mother, but my grandmother, boy, when I think of her, she was like a giant to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mady Bell Lewis
Mm-hmm.
Nicholson.
Yeah.
And she was everybody's grandmother.
Yeah.
When you said big mamas of the community,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes, everybody knew and respected and loved my grandmother, and she loved everybody as well.
Yes.
And right
Yes.
there in that little home in North Philadelphia, 32nd in Montgomery, 32nd in Euclid, and right around the corner from Refuge. And just watching her and knowing about her life. And when I graduated from high school and I moved out of my parents' home, I moved in with my grandmother. So 15 years I spent being Mady Bell Jr. and just watching her stretch a dollar child. And the legacy in both of us and in other women, and even the younger women that are coming up behind us that we're pouring into. We're empowering women to stand because there were women who empowered us to stand. And so that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So let me go on to our next question. Now, this is something that is relatively new, but you do so much. I know you got something else on the
So
back burner.
much. I do so much.
But let's talk about in the moments that remain, let's talk about your book, which empowers young women to stand for the love of me. For the
Yes.
love of me, a 30-day self-love journal.
Mhm.
Tell our audience how this came to be, what is it all about? Share one or two of the exercises. And if you have a copy there, hold it up. If not, I'm going to make sure that we give everyone listening and watching enough information to find it on their own. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be behind the scenes while you're talking, taking care of that as well. Hmm.
For the Love of Me came about, I would say when my father passed in 2020. It was a really hard year at the beginning of the year. My grandmother, maternal grandmother, had passed in January, and then February was my grandmother's sister, my auntie, and then March was my father unexpectedly. So from there, I had went through a lot of depression. Of course, grief was a big thing. I had went through trying to, commit suicide or unalive myself. And so what I wanted to do with that was it was just a lot that I was going through. And I would say that I had given up on my nonprofit. I didn't want to do anything else with it. I was done. Pretty much, I was just pretty much dying in the moment. If you know what that means, you just here, but you're just existing.
Yeah.
So eventually, what happened was a young lady contacted me for her daughter. And where it actually was a classmate and said, "Hey, I have a young lady that needs your help." I'm just like, I don't know how I'm gonna help her, but okay, just send her to me. And so the young lady asked me to help her with her daughter. And so with her son first, I think it was her son first. And then I was able to help him. She asked me to help him, get a scholarship and find some ways to get him to pay for college. We did that. She called me back and said, "Hey, my son is in college. He got things paid for. Thank you so much. I have my daughter I need you to help with." And I'm like, I told you I wasn't doing this anymore. You know, so was able to work with her with her daughter, and then her daughter started doing a business, and from there she started getting a lot better. And then I picked up that, and then I could tell that the mother was like, she was doing her best to handle being a single mother. She had a daycare, and so I just started to write about how we love ourselves again, and talking to women, low self-esteem, things they've been through, domestic violence or grief, and they just let it go. So I decided to create this journal, which is a journey through different aspects of learning how to love yourself, how to have gratitude amongst yourself. And it's not just a journal where you're just writing, like you have questions and thoughts, and you have to write a love letter to yourself. That's one activity where you write 3 love letters to yourself. You have a gratitude jar. I give you a recipe on how to create a gratitude jar. yoga. A lot of people do not realize that you could do yoga, and there is Christian yoga as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just meditating in the moment. Also, as you go through these 31 days, at the bottom of each page, you will find something to do to show love to yourself. So you have a challenge, and your challenge could be go and take a long walk. One challenge could be buy yourself the favorite ice cream. One challenge could be watch your favorite movie. Just time for yourself. Send some flowers to yourself. So there's always a challenge that you have each day. And after each week, you reflect on how your week were, and then you move on to the next topic. So it has been a blessing. I turned that also into a class, a 6 weeks class, and it has really blessed some people that have came to me and just said like it. I mean, even the family, so I see a change within just those 6 weeks of doing the class. So that was a blessing. And I said, okay, God, this is what you gave me. I didn't want it. I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to throw it back, but you
Mm-hmm.
throw it back, threw it back to me, and I threw it back to you, and you threw it back to me. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, so this is it's a blessing. It's a small book, but I love it. Even the affirmation wheel, I love that because you have to write an affirmation for every aspect of your life, finances, health, whatever it is, you write an affirmation. So it has been a blessing to everyone.
Yes, here's a little bit of the cover for The Love of Me, 31-day journal to heal your body, mind, and soul. And that can be found on Amazon.com. Simply put Margie Y. McLean in the search bar of Amazon. Margie, there's her name right there, Margie, but add a Y, McLean, and or Amazon.com/author/Margie Y. McLean, and it'll come up and purchase several of those books, one for yourself, a couple for some young people.
Please.
And she didn't leave the young men out. You can tell that, she had young women in mind, and not just for young women. This book, the exercises are for anyone of any age.
Everyone.
But
Mm-hmm.
she also has another book, and that is Turn Your Passion into a Paycheck. That's an ebook also available on Amazon.com. Take a couple of minutes and just give a little promo about that book as well, Margie.
Turn your passion into a paycheck is you can take anything that you love to do and turn it into a business. And
Mhm.
this book will walk you through how to do that. First of all, walk you through how to figure out what it is that you like to do, and then you find, you write some things of how can you take that and turn that into a business, how can you take that and make money, and then from there it teach you how to start your business, how to open up your business. And it's really for kids because that's how my mom started me with yard selling,
Mm-hmm.
selling my baby dolls and things like that. So and from there I started the businesses that I have. They always say you need it, my parents always say you need to have a side hustle. So but you can take that side hustle and turn that into a multi-million-dollar business. Just think
Absolutely.
about anything that you love to do. Yep.
I was a teenager with a typewriter and
Hmm.
and Kinko's at the time, and I had just moved in with my grandmother, and I was like, I got this bill I'm trying to get rid of. She said, why don't you sell your poems? Put them in a frame and sell your poems. I'm
Right.
like, put them in a frame. I
Yes.
found some dollar frames at the dollar store, typed up the poems on my typewriter, went to Kinko's, made copies. It was 8 or 9 cents at the time,
Yes. Yep.
and then went around to flea markets selling the poems. Who knew
Yes.
that 30
Hmm.
years later, God would bless me to become a self-published poet,
Yes.
an author?
Yes. I love
So
it.
the passion into a paycheck, amen,
Hmm.
or a ministry, or both.
And both.
Circling back around as we close to For the Love of Me, the 31-day self-love journal. Um, in this month that we're in, certainly those who are survivors of domestic violence, some of the residue after you're out of the
Yeah.
situation, you're left with guilt, you're left
Yeah.
with shame, you're left with embarrassment. But guess what? You're on the other side of it, And there
Yes.
are tools and resources available for you, even books like
Hmm.
For the Love of Me, Forgive Yourself,
Forgive
and
yourself.
love yourself back
Hmm.
to that powerful woman that you were designed to be. So
Yes.
if you know someone that's going through on the other side of domestic violence, the healing is still going on. Gift them with this book. If you don't have any money, inbox me or Margie. We'll make sure you get it in your hands
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
we want to see women empowered. We want to see women healed. We want to see women delivered. We're going to
Yes.
pray for you. Yes, we're going to share our testimonies with you and share the gospel with you. Yes, but we also have practical resources available for you. And that is why we're in this awareness ministry, I call it. I don't call it a business, I call it a ministry.
Yes.
And so we want to thank you for watching and listening to part two of our soft launch, entering back into the stratosphere of empowering women to stand with our special guest, Margie. Margie, thank you so much
You so
for
much.
everything. Thank you for everything. And as we close, um, all social media is Margie McLean. But the Cash App, if you want to make a donation to the Margie McLean Foundation, is Margie. Well, it's a Cash App sign. I think there's some word for it. I don't know what it is, but the dollar sign, Margie MC Foundation.
Yes.
I also want to give a special shout out before I go to Debbie Edwards, the storyteller of WTMR. She is responsible for this time slot, 8 p.m. on Wednesdays for this month. And her ministry is What's Your Story? And she encourages people to tell their testimony, tell their story. Everybody has one. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to have her on before the end of the month. So keep listening. And thank you, Margie, once again. And thank you, Lord.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Until next week, as always, be blessed, be encouraged, and believe.